Okay, party people, welcome to the 13th episode of Season 5, The Next Generation's First Generation. It's that wily episode of Star Trek The Next Generation that is known as the Masterpiece Society. It's another Troy-centric episode where we have a gigantic moral and ethical dilemma that we need to work our way through. Can we do it? Sascha Shouty is my co-host.
I think we can. And the best part is it's in the Moab Scepter. I haven't been in freaking, Utah, Arizona in a long time.
I didn't even think about that it's supposed to be, that they're referencing Mormons.
Oh, you think? I don't know. It's a reach. I think we'd have to do a little bit of reading. If I typically will do reading on the side while reviewing these episodes. So if I see something that pops up, I'll definitely bring it up. So with that being said, our friends, sync up your devices. We'll give you the countdown and then we'll be good to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and play.
So we got
beautiful shot.
Stellar core floating out here in space, and it's gonna pretty much destroy everything in its path, though. The problem is that it looks like the Enterprise is right next to it.
Yeah, the scale's a little off.
Yeah.
Ooh, he's wearing his captain's jacket. We
Yes.
haven't seen that in a few episodes. It looks though like the zipper's stuck and he can't zip it up and he can't undo it all the way. It's just in this really awkward high 4 centimeter mark.
But they bounced us right into what the conundrum of this episode is.
Yes.
Discovered a settlement they didn't know was there. Most importantly, it's a human settlement. Now, they got there with warp, but they're not spacefarers. We're going to discover this is a genetically created society that wants to be completely separatist.
This is actually a flashback to a very early episode, and I think season 2, where we come across the Irish colony and the technologically advanced clone colony.
And it's weird because these people are kind of genetically engineered. There's definitely has to be like cloning going on here, is what I mean to say. And Picard is very upset about it. But well, the conundrum here is that they are, for all intents and purposes, violating the Prime Directive by dealing with these people. Because even though they're capable of space flight, they are not a spacefaring society.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that leader right there is a good-looking guy. I want to say his name is John Schneider.
I don't think that's John Schneider.
No, the guy in the background is Ron Canada.
Yes, who we last saw in Adventures in Babysitting.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's right.
Talked about him quite a bit. He's the guy at. He's kind of the boss in the garage.
He was also Barry in Pinocchio's Revenge.
But he is a true Star Trek alum because he is also in Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
Oh yes, he is.
And in the non-sci-fi world, he is most often cast as a judge on Your Legal Thrones.
Yeah. Well, he's got that elder professional feel to him for sure.
See,
yeah, that is John Schneider.
Okay.
Now he's the same guy who played the Romulan on that episode where Geordi was trapped on a planet with the Romulan, and their bodies were both shutting down, and they needed to work together to escape.
Now, I love the contrast they have here, where like the outside of this colony looks like Jabba's palace,
mm-hmm.
and the inside is, late 80s, early 90s industrial park attractive.
It honestly quite reminds me of the video game Surviving Mars. If you go and take a look at some of the screenshots of that game, it's exactly like that. It's this really bizarre indoor outdoor contrast with the 90s industrial park. I really like how you put that. I was trying to come up with a name of that theme. So this is as we said earlier, this is our 13th episode of season 5 of Star Trek The Next Generation. Masterpiece Society came out February 3rd, 1992. And if you are living in the Pacific Northwest, brace yourself, because in the next 2 weeks there will be a massive snowstorm. That's right. For whatever reason, we always have a snowstorm right around Valentine's Day, which
I remember that.
So this story is by James Kahn and Adam Belanoff. And where this kind of came from, James originally pitched a story that got basically eaten and turned into another story. And I don't know how you feel about it as a writer. If you do your pitch and then realize it gets cannibalized to get turned into something else, at least they gave him the credit for it, maybe?
Yeah.
A Perfect Human, that was the name of it.
What was the name of it?
The original story was called The Perfect Human.
Huh. But I mean, that's the thing here, is they don't do a good enough job of showing that this society is better than any other society. They show that there are people there that believe that it is, which is good, because I mean that's what the reality would be, is that it would be more based on personal opinion than any actual level of achievement.
Okay.
But Troy is really impressed by Mr. Schneider here.
Oh, that's a snappy outfit, man. It's like he's the head maitre d' and 10 forward there with the green jacket. I didn't even notice the hand-stitched inner shirt, if you notice, between the yellow and green fabric there. So in the original story, The Perfect Human, it was supposed to be very much like the clone episode, where you had just 100 of the same character running around, and they had a man and a woman, and it was supposed to be like this Adam and Eve situation, but instead of people getting it on, they just make copies of themselves over and over and over. I can understand why they changed it, though, because it's too close to what they've already done. And this is more of a story about social engineering rather than making copies of people. God, this guy's got just dreamy eyes. Look at that. You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of the guy who did Family Guy. Oh, shoot. What's his name? Seth MacFarlane. That's right. He looks like he could be Seth MacFarlane's geeky second cousin or something.
Yeah, I could see that. And this could easily be an episode of The Orville as far as that goes.
Oh, no kidding.
Or even Lower Decks, because we actually get to see a big team of Lower Deckers working on this planet, which is funny, because it's really rare that you see that, where they bring in a bunch of people that are not the main cast to do something. I mean, they're not characters in the episode, but they are very present.
Yeah, I could see the Lower Decks crew in the patio area saying, "Art supplies, get your art supplies. I got protractors, I got crayons."
But it's funny, because what is the Enterprise or any kind of military organization if not social engineering, but done on a merit scale? And
that's really funny that you mention it. So that's kind of what Commander Eddington had accused the Federation of. It's like, this is paradise. Nobody leaves paradise. And if you do leave paradise, there must be something wrong with you and not us.
Commander is the security chief from Deep Space Nine, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he also became a leader of the Maquis for a while.
Yes. But what it gets down to is, on this planet, if you were found to be that you would be blind in the womb, you'd be eliminated. And Geordi is blind, but he is the chief engineer, and the technology that makes his visor is a technology that saves his planet. So it's like what Spock says, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Mm-hmm. However, both societies are still based around the best possible person, in the best possible role. They just have a different definition of best. Blind could not be best on their world. But you could go to other places where it's even worse than that, where a woman could not be best, or a person with a different skin color than whoever decides they're dominant could not be best.
Okay.
The reason that... Go ahead.
Well, you're making me think about the infinite diversity, infinite combinations. You would actually want to keep diverse characters in the community, because you don't know what positive traits they can contribute despite whatever moral, reasons why you don't want them around. I mean, I don't want to sound like a freaking fascist here, but just in the context of, if you build a perfect society, you would want as many options as possible to build that society up. So it would make sense to eliminate imperfection.
And just like that clone episode, if even the most minor change happens, they'll die out within a couple of generations. I like at the end of this guy has this whole thing about he has a 6-month fix-it plan, which is the true mark of being a bred bureaucrat.
Oh yeah, you have a plan within a plan.
Put together a 6-month plan. But just by letting the crew of the Enterprise in, they've already changed things. And what I wish would have happened later on, after Troy and this guy hook up, and Troy has to very embarrassingly explain to Picard that that the two of them have slept together. He's like, well, both of you made that decision, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Troy's not one to really break protocol.
Yeah, and it comes up again on Voyager, and I'm kind of glad after watching this, just because of how ashamed Troy is in that scene. This comes up again on Voyager, where Harry Kim sleeps with an alien species he's not supposed to sleep with, and catches a STI from her. And Janeway, really goes off on it about, there's a whole book of regulations about why you don't do this.
I do like the open-mindedness of this scientist, though.
Yes.
She's actually very blown away by Geordi's technology. And Geordi would have been quite the anomaly. Like, whoa, you're blind? Like, I would almost expect... I would expect for them to stumble a little bit more with having to adapt to a person with a disability in the room.
She doesn't realize he's disabled until they're back on the Enterprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he takes off his visor, and it really freaks her out.
So at this point, they just think it's an enhancement.
He's not really even questioning why he has the visor at all. It's not until they're back on the Enterprise trying to figure everything out. I really wish that Ron Canada had a bigger role in this, because it's a great. They could have. He's kind of there to be the argumentative, to be the opposing viewpoint, which you would have to have in a society like that. There has to be somebody that says, let's consider the other options.
Well, he's more interested in preserving what they have rather than altering anything for any reason. He strikes me as one of those guys who'd rather go down with the ship than make a change.
That's why it's so sad that they just didn't have Tellarites on Star Trek for so long. Because that's what their whole thing is being like contrarian and argumentative. And I was really happy to see a whole episode of Discovery last week that had a Tellarite in it.
Oh, no kidding. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, he was the guy that was arguing with the Orion guy on the cadet mission.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I didn't know he was a Tellarite.
Yep. Huh. And then what's it called? The new show, Prodigy also has a Tellarite character in
it. I haven't gotten past the pilot on that one.
It's good after you watch all of it that's out. I think the whole, I want to say there's 5 episodes of it, and smushed together they make a 2-hour setup for the show, and it's good after that point. Like, I'm excited to see more of it, but it just takes that 2 hours to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But here's Picard doing his speech about why genetic engineering is wrong.
Ronald D. Moore has a really good quote about this episode, and it doesn't apply to this scene, but this is exactly how I'm feeling. He says, well, it's an episode where, Troy falls in love with one of the people. You can't wait to get up and get a beer.
Yeah. They're really unfair to the Troy character, and it stinks because it's like Marina Sirtis uses everything that she's given to create a character.
In fact, I think she's a stronger, more pronounced character now because of it. Mm-hmm. If you notice, it just kind of left her alone and just kind of mature into this new character that we see that comes out during the Voyager series with all those Barclay episodes.
Yes.
And that was carried on to the strong, inquisitive, I'm not taking any prisoners woman. Like, she is present and in charge. But here it is. This is a conversation about how do we mess with the perfect society. Okay, this is our oh my goodness, you must be blind conversation.
Yeah. I love that like 99.9% of all experiments are a beam flying at a short distance. It's funny that Geordi does this here because I don't think at any other time he's like, oh, I'm exhausted. Off goes the visor.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, look at that inquisitive look. I do kind of have to hand it to LeVar Burton for having the disassociated looking around when he's not wearing his visor. Mm-hmm. So like he's not quite turning his head in the direction of where the scientist is. Kind of makes it a little bit more believable that he is blind. I wonder how much he could actually see through those contacts anyway.
Not much, I don't think. Or through the visor, for that matter. I think that what he wears, when you see him with his bionic eyes, he could see through, though.
Would you almost say that this is a commentary on abortion as well?
Sort of.
It's a consequence of the engineering of the society, I would say.
Because ideally what you would want to do with genetic engineering would not be to eliminate the child, but it would be to alter the child before it's born.
Mm-hmm. The idea would be gene therapy.
The reality of it is that, you would do what Geordi says. And it's like, oh, baby going to have, be born with an intellectual disability. Let's just get another baby.
Oh, here we go. This is the excited Geordie's got to fix everything moment. I've got the technology right here. If we could just adapt it, it will fix the beam and we can find our solution. I do appreciate when they bring in guest scientists from other planets or colonies onto the show. It's probably the most enjoyable collaboration I see of characters on the show. You don't really see that too much with like security personnel or medical personnel or command personnel, but the engineers, they geek on 100%.
Good for him. He's not thirsty for that woman at all.
You know, that would have made it weird.
Yep.
But I could see that character do that. In fact, why wasn't this a Geordie and Troy love episode where they both kind of fall and it's working really well?
Because then it would be that everybody has, because then they would have to have it be that everybody on the Enterprise would be into people on the planet. Once two of them went, Riker would find someone and beat up her husband.
Oh my goodness.
But I love this is such an old person's version of like what a perfect society would be. And children play the piano for adults on a patio at night.
During an earthquake.
Yeah, Grandma will love it. Jeffrey's so talented. I think I will get him that bike.
I bet you this is the kind of colony where
like Doogie Howser.
Oh yes, he does look like Doogie Howser. I bet you this is one of those colonies where like when you turn 10, everybody gets the blue bicycle, and then when they turn 13, they all get that sports ball.
It's the Giver. It's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. Except that in the Giver, they killed the babies after they were born.
I am so glad you read that book. I wasn't aware of that.
Yep.
The whole series really is nice too.
Yeah, I've only read the first one.
Yeah, they've got a really good one called no, it's not. Is it Finding Blue? There's about 3 books in there where it shows the history of that child who grew up and escaped, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a really nice social commentary. And
yes.
The only thing is that it preys upon the darker primordial urges of mankind, which are never good when it comes to drama. But when you look at this episode, nobody's truly evil. No. And that's there's very little to risk other than matters of the heart in this episode.
And the idea that this would be a unique separatist society, which is what their goal was, is that to be entirely separate and have their own thing. But they don't do anything that the people on the Enterprise can't recognize. It's like they know what a piano concert is and everything. But I love that they have this contrast that they're in such an ugly place. Like you can see right here, it's like the reality is not pretty. The reality is very stark and uncomfortable.
Well, what they've done, the reality is that they've made an oasis for themselves. Those awkward tall person neck lean-in kisses.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so wrong. We got to keep making this mistake. Let's just find out how wrong it is.
Yeah, if it was the Orville, it would be like a great Earth poet once said, "If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right."
Meanwhile, professional scientist, she looks like she's about to go clubbing at brunch.
Exactly. If they're from a genetically engineered world, there would be no reason for her to dress like that.
No, not at all. I think her name's Hannah Bates.
Hannah Bates.
Maybe. Wonder if we've seen her in anything. She's got that TV trauma face. Drama?
Yes.
Drama.
She reminds me quite a bit of the Alexander's teacher from 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. You know what? I wonder. Let's see. Okay. Yes. Okay. We've seen her um around. So she was in Enterprise and she was on DS9. Um, so she was the undercover investigator on DS9, where Odo kind of, has his first person girlfriend. So there's where we know her, but she is not Alexander's teacher. She sure could look like it, though.
Yeah. Could have recast the role and you wouldn't have known.
No, like not at all. Sorry, Day Young is the character, or is the actress's name. Hannah Bates is the character.
That makes more sense.
Oh, wrong Canada.
Ron Canada.
Now Ron was also the lawyer trying to get Worf off of Deep Space Nine, the Klingon lawyer. I like him. I like him a lot. Here we go. There's Troy trying to logic out the situation. She's upset. He just wants to kiss her some more.
Yep.
So this is where if I think I'm recalling this incorrectly, but I think he just asked her to stay.
Yeah.
Or she asked to stay.
No, he wanted her to stay with him.
And she could.
But it would also destroy the society. It would destroy the society more than it's actually, evolutionary wise, it's a good thing that all of these people would leave this place.
Well, yeah, and they actually kind of hint at that when they start looking at the technology that the Enterprise has versus what these folks have on Mawab 4 or whatever the name of the planet is.
But it just bugs the snot out of Picard because he's like, we ruined something. We, as hard as we tried, we still stepped on a butterfly.
I see
lower deckers.
Yeah, there they are. I see this more of like, we've got to fix the ant colony is about to get crushed. We should pick up and move the terrarium kind of situation.
Well, it's not an ant colony. It's like a colony of like snowflake ants.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still like an enormous personal cost to the Enterprise, where they have to lose all of life support to move this stellar core fragment that they were just going to watch.
Who's that guy who did the chaos theory speech? Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah,
I could see him playing a part in this, and he would probably make a really compelling speech about either the need to mix things up or the need to keep things set.
And that ensign is back.
Is she?
Yep.
I didn't see her. Well, I just noticed that, Miss Hannah Bates there is going through every scene she's in a different costume. Which is actually something that I appreciate, and I think that Star Trek has always needed. It's like everybody always has the same 2 pieces of clothing. Oh, Sheila Franklin. I think that's who you're talking about. The wavy-haired ensign.
Yes.
Yes. Sheila. I think this might be her last episode. So they got a tractor beam on the core fragment, which is also what they did with Q. Remember, tractor beam on the
ball of toxic garbage.
Yeah. So many things can be moved when they science a tractor beam.
But I mean, this show was also invented before binging was a thing.
True.
They did
it was okay to recycle concepts because the likelihood of you seeing the companion episode within a 3 or 4 month period was so slim.
Yeah.
Are you telling me then that binging demands writers to be a little bit more creative with their content,
or to have it be a show that's more of a serial, where there's like an ongoing plot going on? I mean, Deep Space Nine would be the first bingeable Star Trek, and I would even argue that Voyager isn't as bingeable as Deep Space Nine is. And then you go back to Enterprise, and Enterprise is probably more bingeable than Voyager.
True.
And then Discovery is very, very bingeable.
So here's our artificial emergency. The script demands an technological attempt to fix whatever's going on. You moved it, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You moved it, oh joy, oh joy, oh joy. Ah, he fixed his zipper on his jacket finally. Hail!
I love that he walks into frame and sits down like, how does this damn thing work?
Why was the camera pointed at his crotch if he's standing up? Who was he just talking to?
Talking to Troy on a wristwatch.
Oh, brother. This is a great accomplishment. Thank you. And of course, now we go into the ethical dilemma of we saved them, but we killed them because we saved them. Oh, there we go. She just realized she doesn't want to go home. But this is more for professional reasons than anything else. She wants to be a scientist who discovers the unknown, and she just realized working with Geordi, she's way behind as an engineer.
Yeah, but it's like she'd go to the Daystrom Institute and be totally outclassed and probably spit on a little bit for being part of the separatist community.
I don't know. Maybe she'd be make good friends with the whale scientist lady from Star Trek 4.
True. I don't know that she's still alive, but
oh no, it's Star Trek. Everybody lives to like 150. She could be alive. They got McCoy. He was kicking it.
I don't know if it'll be here by the 19th, but I found a really cool old Star Trek graphic novel from Matt that ties in with some of the whale scientist stuff.
So this right here is something that I have great issue with, that is not believable. So you have Hannah here who discovered another technical problem and why the dome could be at risk and that they're all going to have to leave after all. But Geordi calls her out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And says, why are you doing this? Why are you sabotaging this colony? And I'm just thinking to myself, I can't see someone basically destroying their entire society just so they can move on with their own life.
Oh, she's not. She's just saying that there's something the matter with it. That's the other problem, is nobody else there is qualified to know if it's actually broken. She says there's a big crack going into the foundation, but Geordi just said there isn't one.
Mm-hmm.
So she's straight up lying to get the ball rolling, which that I could see doing, because if you do that, then if you do what she's doing, you can. Sorry, I just had something weird happen.
I'm sorry.
Lost my train of thought.
So what she's doing is she's just trying to look for an out to get off of this planet.
And they'll figure out by the time she's gone that there was no problem, and then she won't have to deal with it.
You know, that control panel that they were working on looks a lot like the control panel in the Iconian episode. They just they filled out the center column.
Oh my God, did they recycle a prop?
Yeah, I know, right?
Either all be in collectors' homes or in the trash.
Or both. Sometimes the collector's home is trash.
Yeah.
Ouch. So there it goes. There's the claim. We're 200 years behind the times. We got to get modern. Yep, there we go. The episode should have opened with this.
They didn't have time to have the conversation, though. They thought they were just going to evacuate everybody real fast. And we've got, I think it's in season 6 or 7, we have the episode where they have to trick people into thinking they're not on the Enterprise so they can evacuate them. Because they don't.
Oh, that's the Worf's Brothers episode.
Yeah.
The society is genetically integrated. Suddenly there would be gaps, missing pieces. It would destroy them.
I don't know. If they had fixed the initial problem almost instantly within like the first 10 minutes, then they could have spent the rest of the episode actually talking about social engineering, which is a really fascinating concept. But it seems like, this is a weird thing to say, it seems like none of the actors really have the energy to engage the topic.
Yeah.
I don't, it seems so milquetoast. The only real emotion we get from anybody is Ron Canada. And he's just like, nope, we can't do it. Grump.
Well, I think Picard does a good response to Troy telling him that she slept with that guy. Because he's very much like, well, crap, because as a person, I don't want to fault you for this, but as like the captain, I kind of have to. Even though, after that, I still have to work with you every day. So, I mean, his face does some great range of emotion here.
Mm-hmm. I've actually been in this situation where I've had 2 employees come to me, explain that they were in a relationship and that there was a conflict of interest.
Oof.
Yeah. It resolved itself, but it was touch and go for a second. I'm like, okay, is this something I just kind of deal with right here? Do I need to escalate this to HR? It was a real test of, just being a leader. So I appreciate sometimes when someone comes to Picard and they're just open up and really vulnerable and say, yeah, I made a mistake. And the best thing he can do is acknowledge them, validate how they feel, and say, well, here's how we need to proceed.
Yeah.
Aside from genetic manipulation, nobody's perfect. Was that a jab?
Yeah, I think so. And even then, they're only perfect because somebody else told them they were.
I want to see a battle to the death scene here. The only way she can leave is in a coffin.
This is your doing. We never should have answered your hails.
We'd followed that advice, Martin, we'd all be dead by now. So much for the welfare of this colony.
You are not taking her with you.
I'm leaving. And I'll tell you something else, or at least a dozen
So,
others who are ready to go with
do they address what happens if there's an accidental death, like how the society could cope?
They don't, and that's what the problem with that episode with David Ogden Stiers was that they didn't have a replacement for this guy, and he was just going to die. Like there would eventually be one. Like he should have been training his replacement the whole time to go on this mission to save their world.
Yeah.
It was like if they ever did an episode about all of the background folks that were there, you could get into if they saw like replacement pods and stuff, like doubles or people waiting to be activated, your cryo chambers and stuff.
There's this game that I play called Surviving Mars. I mentioned it earlier. And
Yeah.
I'm playing it on the mode where I start out with my batch of 12 colonists. I don't have anybody else. So those 12 colonists need to have kids to basically maintain the colony and try to grow it out, to build it with the limited resources that you have. And I definitely understand, like, it's painful in the game when you lose 1 or 2 people, because there goes my 2 potential baby making machines to build this colony any bigger. But at the same time, they'll be fine. They're still going to make food. They're still going to find ways to entertain each other, and they're still going to find a way to science. I mean, I'm sure they have an educational system. So for them to get so bent out of shape when people want to leave, uh, though it might be catastrophic, I think they'll do just fine when it comes to actually eating, breathing, recreating, being emotionally stable. It's not a believable situation to me. It's kind of like, oh, I can't buy a Lexus this year. I'm gonna have to go for a Hyundai. It's not a believable risk the way they sell it. It's privilege. That's what it is.
I implore you, Captain. Do not let this happen.
Yeah, back in the day, a middle-class person could just trade in their car after each year for a lower income person to have, buy the new model. The lower income person buys that year-old car. Yeah, the automobile economy 70 years ago was really nice.
Almost sounds like Reagan style trickle down economics.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Didn't exist, but
I find it interesting that the captain is even indulging this. If the leader here, Mr. Aaron Connor is his name, if he just said leave, I think Picard would have to leave.
no, he'd have to take with him all the people that wanted to go. They're not the problem. The ethical problem for Picard was, should they have let the colony know they were there to begin with? And he kind of thinks at the end of the day, no, they shouldn't have. But like I said, this is where he introduces the 6-month plan. And also, you would have to have, what would further mess it up is the Enterprise isn't going to be able to take the people that want to go later. You'd have to have kind of this ever-present starships coming in and out of the area. And yeah, maybe some of the crew on those ships would want to stay there. That's how, Voyager was sort of like what this colony is they couldn't lose anybody to deciding they wanted to settle on a planet that they went to that they liked, or being killed. They just didn't have the manpower to move a ship through space if they lost.
You are in command of a starship. You live to explore the
Yeah.
unknown for that same privilege.
I think Paradise did this episode better. That's the DS9 episode where Cisco gets locked in a box for not,
Yeah,
I don't know, taking off his uniform.
And they also did it on in the movie Insurrection. Is this story too?
Oh,
that time Picard liked somebody. And did you notice your boobs are getting firmer?
Whoa, yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that.
The Insurrection one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to do all of the movies in a big clump and not wait for the 30-year anniversaries of their releases.
Ooh, clumpy movies. That's what we like.
But I kind of want to hear what David has to say about Insurrection.
It's a good one. This episode is such a snooze fest. I think we've talked about just about everything other than the episode. I remember putting me to sleep too as a kid.
Yeah.
As a kid, a lot of the next gen episodes, I couldn't tell when they were showing a new episode or if they're just running an old one that I hadn't seen. Because sometimes you forget to show up and watch a show because you're busy like riding your bike or hanging out outside. Yeah. And so when I saw this, I actually thought this was a season 1 episode that I had missed.
I believe it. Troy's dressed a little bit more tastefully and she was in season 1.
Yeah, no doubt. And then only as I was an adult, and I started renting the DVDs from Netflix before they went online. And I got the season 5 disc. I'm like, wait, what? This is in season 5? And hey, there's the Picard crystal.
Picard's crystal.
Do you think that's really the crystal from Superman's lair?
No.
No. Aw. That'd be nice if it was. 23 colonists. So, did we ever figure out how many of the colonists were left behind?
I don't remember. I don't think they said what the numbers were.
That's a lot of people, 23. See, like I said, this episode is completely backwards. They should have solved the technological problem in Act 1, have the asylum in Act 2, and then in Act 3 have everybody on board, and then just kind of have the people while on the ship separated from their community start having second thoughts about, well, maybe I don't want to leave, or maybe I do, and they're trying to plan their new lives. But instead, what they do, oh, that's the end of the episode. Instead, I just talked right over it. It would have been so much more interesting if we could watch those 23 people try to build a new life, picking out careers where they're going to live. And Troy could have been right there with them because that's what she does. That's her job. She's kind of a quasi social worker. And then having to deal with people who she might have very strong relationships with, having to decide to painfully to stay home, given that they may not feel welcomed in the greater part of the Federation for being so technologically behind by 200.
No, that's the realm of fan fiction, I guess.
Yep. Well, the sad part of being a fan is whatever they do, I think I can do it better. So I definitely want to make that clear. I'm very aware of how ridiculous my opinions can be, and it will just live in my headspace. Though I do enjoy sharing those opinions here. When it comes to sharing opinions, though, on this episode, I would probably give it about a 3 out of 5 stellar fragments.
Yeah, I would even say closer to 2.5 because it'll get done again many times and get done better.
Mm-hmm. It's an episode that if they polished it, it'd work great. And
it's surrounded by so many really, really good episodes. We have Conundrum coming next time.
Ooh, yeah, that's right.
Violations was right before it, which was a better Troy episode. And it just isn't cricket to have a good Troy episode and follow it with a bad Troy episode.
Oh man, Troy episodes shouldn't be compliments. The good, the bad, then end it with the good again. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps things up for us. Stay tuned February 10th for Conundrum. If I remember, that has something to do with an unknown spaceship, and they discover their memories along with the ship's computer partially erased memories. So that'll be neat stuff. With that, I'd like to say, have a wonderful day. Music provided by lofigirl.com. Artists include Tenno, Daydreaming, BVG in Mondberg, Insomnia, WYS, Snowman, Be Common Banks, Because. Episode cover art created by Matthew Kirschner. Podcast logo and main cover art provided by David Clawwitter. Audio engineering done by Sascha Schaudies.